In yesterday's video, we went over the importance of the $103,000 price per Bitcoin region. And in today's video, I want to be following up on that, going over tonight's major higher term time frame closures, which will very likely massively impact the direction of Bitcoin for the end of this month and maybe even into the beginning of February. I want to once again state, similar to yesterday, that the Bitcoin bulls, they're kind of on the clock right now. If Bitcoin is going to move up, we do expect Bitcoin bulls to kind of take the reins from here. That does imply that hesitation around this region over the next few days, especially coming into next Monday, is going to be not looked at least from my perspective, or this channel's perspective, as good for Bitcoin moving higher and actually breaking out and resolving this range. But for right now, I did want to go over some of the higher term time frame closures. So today we have a daily, a 2-day, a 3-day, and a 5-day all closing simultaneously on CME. And all of the momentum pivots, as we went over in yesterday's video, are very, very close to each other. In this case, we can see the daily time frame will actually risk a cross to the downside if Bitcoin does close today, again, on CME below 105,450. If we go over here to the 2-day time frame, we can see that momentum is actually going to be up extremely likely anyways, so maybe not worth talking about this one, but 92,200 is the pivot there. The 3-day time frame, however, we see that $103,000 number pop up yet again, and the 5-day time frame also around that region at about actually 101,650. So I'm very interested to see where things close out tonight. Does Bitcoin fulfill those pivots, especially above about 103? That was the highest of the ones that we just went through. And if it does, then I would still be essentially on the side of upside is significantly more likely. We're very likely to see this rally happen probably before the end of January, meaning that Bitcoin actually breaks the current high, like has a real actual breakout above the current high with major closures above there. But of course, with these closures coming in later tonight, if Bitcoin were to close below, especially the 101 level region, I would look at that as momentum shifting down, obviously, as you know, these are just all mathematical calculations here. And you're very likely going to experience a much more prolonged correction, maybe even taking up a good portion of February. And price can very easily come down, as we went over in yesterday's video, to the bottom side of this range, which is, you know, 90 to 92,000 bucks, anywhere down around there. Now, I would be looking for a bounce there, and I still would not necessarily be calling like market cycle over or nothing like that. But, you know, Bitcoin could very easily, very, very easily continue on with this range, I do suppose, again, between the highs of just around 105 to the lows of about 90 to 92 region. And seeing as we just tested the highs, you know, you kind of have to be looking for a test of the lows if things do cool off. So again, hesitation here today and especially tomorrow to close out the week for Friday is not going to be looked at as good for the Bitcoin bulls. It's actually going to be looked at as good for the Bitcoin bears, essentially confirming this as the next, I guess, local high right here. It is a higher high, to be fair, but of course, with that higher high, we do not have a higher low just yet. If Bitcoin does pull back, like I said, I do think it'll be an opportunity, and very likely we do see some sort of a higher low evolve from there, and areas of interest for that could be maybe somewhere in this region right here, I guess on a more optimistic view, and then perhaps, like I said, all the way down to 90 to 92 region as well. If Bitcoin does come back down to 90 to 92, while I do think that there would be a bounce, that would be a lot more concerning for the long term. But look, we have an exciting time right now, and so I think really the Bitcoin bulls right now are praying that Trump's going to save them with some sort of an executive order that is going to push Bitcoin to the heavens and beyond between today and tomorrow. So that is kind of the main message that I want to be having today. Of course, when we go over here to the 5-day time frame on CME, we can see that the HPDR bands median is coming in where? 103. Again, these timeframes are closing tonight. So above 103, Bitcoin or the bulls still have the ball in their court. Upside still very much more likely. Below 103, major red flag. Below 102, below 101 on a closing basis for tonight's daily. Get ready for a much deeper pullback. I do think that Bitcoin can very easily, like I said, put in, about a 10% move to the downside if it wants. So, this can go on for quite some more time. Even the bottom side of the 38.2 level here for the 5-day HPDR on CME is coming in, around 91. So, rejecting the median, very likely to come down somewhere around there and retest that region. And that probably takes us into, the beginning of, I suppose, February. Now, I also wanted to bring up something else, something that we haven't spoken about in a while, but this has been kind of like a big focus, I think, on many other channels throughout this cycle, which is the tether dominance chart. The idea here is that tether dominance going down essentially benefits crypto as a whole. Of course, that includes Bitcoin, with blessing it with upside price actions, but and of course, when it goes up, we expect the opposite. And that relationship has actually been very true and well established. So I don't feel the need to go over it on this video. What I do want to go over though is that if you are reliant on this relationship, well, it's very interesting to me because the tether dominance chart is putting in a low. It's putting in a low right there. Whenever I see price action kind of bunch around for a long time, a major moving average, and this is a weekly 377 right here. That's a fucking big one, and really there's not been any failure to break down. There's one closure below right here, but every other one were just wicks to the downside and quickly brought back up above it. That is a very strong signal that it is indeed putting in a low here. I think there is also some regular bullish divergence working off of this low. Yes, indeed there is. So, if this chart is going to reverse, here would be a really fucking good point for it to reverse on. Now, of course, I would declare this an actual breakdown if Bitcoin could really, get an open and closure for a couple candles below the 377, which is about 392% on the tether dominance chart. But as of right now, that's not the more likely thing to happen. I don't think. I do think that Bitcoin is, not Bitcoin, but tether dominance is kind of primed to bounce a bit here at minimum. And does that put downside pressure on price action for Bitcoin? I do think likely. Of course, this is playing within its own range with the highs at around 463 and the lows, basically around the level that we just spoke about, just below 390 or so. But after you test the lows and you reject those, you're typically going to go test the highs. So a move back around here, to the range highs would be quite devastating, I suspect, for the crypto market, just because, the last few spikes that we've seen up to that region, well, I'll just mark them off on the chart. It was January 13th and December 20th. Well, for Bitcoin, what were these comparable areas? January 13th was right here, so on this major low, and December 20th was, I think, right here on this major low as well. So I do think that does deserve some consideration. This relationship has been working for a while, and that is a little bit more of an obvious chart than I think Bitcoin is right now. But still, I would remain with my same overall message as I had yesterday. 103 is a major warning signal. Now, instead of $100,000, I'd say below 101 on a daily closing basis would be very concerning for Bitcoin playing out a deeper correction into perhaps the low 90s. So that's kind of what I think is at stake right now. That is to say that if you are bullish, again, need Bitcoin to start moving to the upside like now, and latest tomorrow, Friday. I do want to bring up one last thing, just a fun thing right here. I know that this pisses a lot of people off, but it is interesting to me to see that the moons have actually thus far produced a pretty nice trade. This one firing off the long moon, if you want to call it that, at 94,550 about a week and a half ago. But we will get the bear moon, the downside moon, relatively soon. That will officially happen on Monday. So if you do want to play the astrologies, I think it is a little bit interesting, seeing as these have been working out, especially with the upside calls, less so to the downside. But they still have worked out, to be fair. And if Bitcoin fails to really close out Friday, on the highs, I think that would really bleed into Monday anyways. So then you get the real market trading again, and you get one of your bear moons, and then you have all momentum oscillators pointing down at the same time. That would be a very obvious signal. But for right now, like I said, above 103 on a closing base, which Bitcoin has not yet closed below 103 on a closing basis, on a higher term time frame closing basis, I still remain bullish. Although I can tell you, I don't really feel it right here. I'm not gonna lie, don't really feel it right here. But as far as the way that I look at trend and the way that I look at just overall direction, I would still remain bullish, but goddamn, man, it is fucking close right now. Anyways, I'll be signing off on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Again, keep in mind, if you're bullish, I think you're kind of on the clock here. I think you're on the clock between today and tomorrow. Failure to move really well, decently above 103 is a major warning signal for the changing and shifting momentum, which very likely does produce some nice downside price action. So we'll end on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Friday.